So we're recording as well now. So if the live fails for any reason, then we are able to upload it after.
Yes.
But yes, I think we are live.
Yay!
So that's great. I can see Louise has just given it a heart. So
awesome.
Yes. Anyway, thank you so much for being here. And yeah, Louise said, yay, it's working. Wonderful.
Well, thank you, Jill, for inviting me to do this with you. And yeah, I'm really excited.
Thank you so much for being here. And how, now I know that you've done an extensive amount of work with human design. How long have you been actually studying?
Not very long at all. That's the really funny thing. When I first found out about it from a fellow astrologer, a fellow astrology student from Australia that happened to see my chart, ran it in human design, and told me that it may be something I might be interested in looking into. So that was it. Never told me anything else. So that was in November 2017. I bought 2 books and read those, was working on me only anyways. So I did my charts and stuff. And then kind of went more back into astrology after that in the beginning of 2018. And then exactly September 26th of 2018, got back into looking into human design. And then I really started to deeply dive into human design and studying it in October.
Right.
And then started receiving like downloads and stuff in November, and I've been in it ever since. It's just really crazy how it's unfolded, but yeah.
So if you were to put in the most understandable words possible, how would you explain to anybody listening what human design is?
Okay, I love this because it really is this simple. What human design is in a nutshell is listening to our own inner authority, meaning like what we feel within ourselves instead of what everybody else outside of us would tell us to do, by not allowing the mind to make our decisions based on pros and cons and weighing and stuff like that. It's about allowing the body's intelligence to move you in a sense. And so a lot of mindset comes in with that as well.
Right. So I've heard some people say about human design that you end up really fixed in a story with it.
You can, yes.
So it is possible to end up fixed.
Yeah, and I've noticed this too. I'm glad that you brought that up. That's really interesting. Nobody's ever really asked me about that, but with any system, honestly, whether it's human design, astrology, or anything else out there, we can become more fixed or rigid within that system. And even though in human design we have what would be called a fixed definition, in that there are certain energies that we have consistently that we can tap into within ourselves. There's a whole array of everything within the chart that we can gain wisdom with and through and become mature in those areas, like our emotions. That's a big one.
Yeah. So how do you use human design, for want of a better word, to enhance our life experience without getting stuck into a story?
I think by staying open, honestly. and really listening to that inner guidance. We all have inner guidance. However that looks like for each person may be different. A lot of people call it intuition. A lot of people, you know, call it other things, but we'll just say that we all have our body. All of our bodies have an intuitive intelligence, for example. The body knows 6 seconds before the mind knows, and then it comes out. And so when we can really get embodied and into our body and connected with that intelligence, and we listen to that, as subtle as it may be, before the mind starts going, yeah, but wait a minute, maybe we should do this and try that, see how that works. If that doesn't work out, maybe we'll try this. And then, you know, or pros and cons, weighing and whatnot. Sometimes it's just about going with the experience. Right. And, you know, experimenting with things. And I encourage people to test things, experiment with it and see, because, yeah, we can get trapped in the fixedness within us, but man, there's so much more beyond that that we can grow and gain wisdom in, and that helps ourselves as well as other people, whether we're out there serving or just being who we are and living in that way, and others, it reverberates out, you know, ripple effect. We all have that.
I mean, two things for me that I find not a block, but something I find difficult to explain. I mean, you know, I'm a projector, and projectors are meant to look after their energy, and not do too much. And yet I'm very aware of my energy and taking care of it. And yet I can be in a high energy place and no need to reduce the amount of work I'm doing. So is that something like that, a comment like that, that projectors must, you know, not do too much? Is that an example of where we could get stuck in a story?
Okay, yes, and I'd like to address this in two different ways. Let me grab a drink of water. So, two different things in that is that, one, of course, you could be very well tapping into the energy of somebody who has energy centers available that you're able to tap into, and they just don't happen to seem to drain you and make you feel like after you're out of their energy that you would need that downtime. And so from what you have said personally, somebody who would come to me and say that, what I would do is I use, okay, so real quick, the human design chart, for those who do not know, is based on your natal astrology birthday. And it includes one extra calculation about 3 months before you were born. So I was born in December, and the other part of the chart in human design is September, and those two are combined. Right. Now, so I use another calculation in situations like what you brought to my attention, in that I look at the 88 degrees afterwards. Because in astrology, for anyone who may be aware of astrology, we use progressions a lot. And our personality, physically anyways, is being formed by the conditioning in the first 3 months after birth. So that's why I use that extra calculation. And what I have found many times is that that shows an energy where maybe they didn't have that energy. And so it explains, and you know, no matter what part in the chart that is, whether that's through the profile or through the centers, what I've found, I think 100%, maybe only 99, is that usually it is because that extra calculation being added in does show what that person is experiencing, like you being a projector by the regular calculations in human design. Running a post-solar chart may show that you have a defined energy center. And even if it were, now, real quick, because I don't remember off the top of my head, are you emotionally defined or not?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I know it was a splenic projector.
You're a splenic projector. Okay, so you're not emotionally defined. So I would say that it would be an extra calculation, because what I was going to say too is that for a projector that has one of the motors also defined but not connected to the throat, so say like if you had the root to the emotional system defined, and I know that this is kind of going over and above, but just for you, for an example, that would give you a little more energy. My mother is a projector, and she has both the root and the emotional center as well defined. And she does show that in her energy, in that she does have a little more energy than somebody who has none of those available to them.
Right, thank you. And I'm trying to get an example of where we can get stuck. So, like with projectors, it's important to be invited in. Yes?
Yes. I would like to expand on that, but go ahead and finish with your question.
So I heard, I think this can cause problems with thinking, how can I operate a business and offer myself if I need to be invited in? So I was just wondering, could that create a story whereby you're not showing yourself as you should because you think you can't?
Absolutely. I totally agree that yes, it can become a story. So with that invitation, so the way that it really does work is that for a projector, it's really about being recognized more than anything else. And in that, being recognized for the energy that you do have. So, you know, if it's a specific channel, say it's somebody who has the channel talent, somebody recognizes that talent that you have, and it's logical, and they then ask you to share with them to help them, whatever it may be. The first thing, though, for projectors to recognize who they are. I mean, their gifts, you know, what they have to give to in service and however it is that they are working in their capacity. So in that, it's not that they have to hide or wait necessarily for somebody to come to them to invite them, because how would anybody be able to do that if they don't see them somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I have noticed, and I've even started doing myself, is that when you're doing a business and you are wanting to help others, is when you're doing your advertising, marketing, however it is that works, that you invite them to see you, in the sense like you already know what it is that you have to offer. And so you would put that down and you would say, I invite you to contact me or to work with me, or however you would put that in content, to help you with XYZ. That's what I do, you know, type thing. And then what that does is it helps them to see you, recognize if that's what they're needing or not, so that they can take your offer, your invitation up. Because it's not only about you waiting to be recognized and or invited by others, it's also about you recognizing and inviting. So you recognizing yourself and you also inviting others, you know. And so part of that too could be if you're in conversation with somebody and they're talking about something and you know the solution, you have it in your head, instead of just telling them, because just because somebody's talking about something doesn't mean they're asking. And I had to learn that the hard way. A lot of times they're just trying to vent. Is we can just say, may I share with you what I'm seeing in what you're sharing? And however, you want to word that. But there's always opportunity to ask for the invitation. You recognize what that person is saying. You recognize that within yourself, you can help that person. And instead of waiting for the invite from them, because maybe they don't know you have that, you could then invite them by saying, that, may I share? I don't see anything wrong with that. I've seen others doing that and having success in that as well.
Thank you. And
Mm-hmm.
Could you give just a brief description of each design?
Yes.
And how
Absolutely.
they interact together?
And how they interact together too? Okay. So there's some questioning. So there's some, I do human design a lot. Well, not a lot. I do it a little bit differently than some. And so I will share from kind of the tradition basics and then a little interplay in that. So in traditional human design, there are 4 different auras. And that's where these 4 different types are generated from.
Right.
And they are the generator, which is most of our population. And the generator has an enveloping aura. We're sucking people in, we're bringing life in, and we're loving, and people feel good around us, and they want to be in our energy. And then there is the projector, and the projector has more of a laser beam penetrating energy that gets right to the core of your identity and gets to know you in a sense. And it's also tasting the environment at the same time, receiving stuff in the environment. And so they're constantly like also processing environmental information that is coming in from others, as well as just the environment. And then the reflector happens to be the type of energy and aura they have is more of a reflecting back, like a mirror, like disco ball. If you could imagine a disco ball, and how there's many different facets and ways of seeing in that way, and they're absorbing everything. And the manifester is the one that is has a repelling energy. And in that, more or less what it is it's I need my space, or keeping people at a further away space and in their face, whereas a generator's like, come here, get in my face. How they interact together. So projectors are able to penetrate others' auras in the sense of getting to, see who their identity is. It may be a little more challenging to penetrate the manifesting aura at times because of the fact that it has more of that repelling type aura to try to keep others out or at bay. And of course, the generator is trying to absorb everybody's aura in a sense by, hey, and where the reflector is like, kind of, I'm sampling, just kind of stay back, but let me sample here and there. And so in a sense, the reflector and the manifester are kind of similar in that, but the manifester is not necessarily sampling. They're doing their own thing. Like, if you think of kings and queens, they're doing their own thing. They have their space from the people would be the generators. They're like, yeah. Now, there's also what's called, in traditional human design, a subtype off of the generator, which is called the manifesting generator, or off the manifester, however you want to sub that, but it would be called the manifesting generator. And the manifesting generator is said to have the enveloping aura, like the generator itself, but they have a connection to the throat, meaning that they do have the ability to initiate, like in conversation and whatnot.
Right.
Now, in traditional human design, it is said that there are no auras that could be in combination. Whereas I have, in my experience being a manifesting generator, I do experience both the aura of the generator and the manifester. There are times when I am repelling, and there are times when I am enveloping.
Right.
And so, is there anything else on that? Initially, I would like to say, and I think for some reason this must be important to say for somebody out there, initially the way that this worked before types even came into human design was that there were two types of energy in a chart. And it was either an energy to wait or an energy to do.
Right.
But I can say that for everybody, it is, and for each type, it is good to wait. There is waiting in every type. So a lot of people, they think it's great or would be cool to be a manifester because they like that name, because we painted it so much. But really, a manifester is, it's really, I mean, a good word would be initiator, because the manifester also has to wait. And what they're waiting on is clarity before they initiate something. And so then they would inform or ask permission before doing something if it were going to affect other people.
Right.
And then the waiting, and the others, of course, you know, waiting for a recognition invitation, and the projector, the waiting, the reflector would be the moon cycle through the gates, and then the waiting for the generator is waiting for something to respond to that lights you up.
That's really, really interesting to the way you've taken us through all those auras. I mean, thank you so much for that.
Thank you. I'm glad that came out okay.
Oh yeah, that was brilliant.
Awesome.
Is there anything you think anybody needs to know as a basic, anything that's basic that would be, needs to be kept in mind if it's wanting to explore more deeply into human design?
Yes, absolutely. The thing to keep in mind is to always go with your own inner authority, your own inner knowing, your body's intelligence that knows before the mind, no matter what. And even if, say, you decided to get into learning more about human design, you go in, you check it out, and it's nope, this is not for me. That's correct. It's not like everybody is gonna be about it. And not only that, we are all so unique in how we take in and how we perceive and how we move and live and have our being, that always, 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 no matter what you read and hear and see on any subject, human design or anything else, it's already within you, the wisdom, and allow that to come up, even if it doesn't resonate fully, but some parts do, or you read something and you see it differently because of your own experience. Always go by your experience. And if it's something you haven't yet experienced, experiment with it, test it to see if what you read, as far as how human design explains something in your design, see if that's valid for you. Because really, human design is about validating it, it's not a belief system, it's not a dogma, although it's turned into that for some people. It's really about validating it. It's not so much, it's about testing it to see if it really is, if it works for you. So for me, I actually lived my design before, and so it was validating. I was able to see the things, and I was able to understand my conditioning better. And not all conditioning is bad. A lot of conditioning is really good. I mean, I learned a lot about how to work within the tribe, for example, families and, stuff like that. Whereas if I had not learned that from my parents, I would have pretty much told everybody kiss my butt, because I could care less. It's not about you. It's only about me. I'm here to survive, and that's it. But I learned a lot of I know how to cook, I got to raise kids. I know how to be a wife, kind of, not me, but I know how to be a human amongst other people who are maybe more tribal. And it's really nice, because had I not had that, I think of Mowgli maybe on the Jungle Book, living wild and always listen and know that you have all that inner wisdom within you, and that
yeah,
it goes by your own authority, not by somebody else's.
yeah. You've mentioned that inner wisdom multiple times, so I am guessing that is really high on the list of importance.
Yes, very, very much so. It's so important, because we're so tossed to and fro by everything going on outside of us and authorities and whatnot. And that's all fine and dandy that those structures are in place, but things are changing, and we already do anyways have that inner wisdom. The body has its own intelligence, and it's just, yeah, it's so important to listen to that and follow that. I mean, I know from experience. I mean, I used to, and then I quit listening to mine, and it ended up being pretty. I ended up with an illness from it, from disability, and it's like, I don't want that anymore. So coming back into my own inner wisdom has been, it's been hard, because we're so conditioned sometimes by the shoulds and should nots. But society says this, but the status quo is this. It's kind of like, it's okay to listen to myself and know that I am guided perfectly fine.
Yeah.
By my inner wisdom. Yeah.
Yeah. And it is easy to get caught up by reading and thinking, I have to follow that. And then that is outside of you, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Because you're not checking in inside.
That's right.
You just, if you're just outside and live in that, you're living in something outside. It's even if you say, oh, I've checked everything, I know what my design is, I know how I should live. If you haven't tested it or gone for that inner wisdom, you still live in something that's outside of yourself.
Absolutely. That is so true, because I know when I first started in human design, and I was inhaling the knowledge, it was all up here. And it wasn't until I took a level 1 course and really embodied and integrated all that knowledge, then the wisdom just started coming up from within. It was just incredible when you really get into the experiment within your body of your design and just start testing. I mean, it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. I feel that it happens maybe more easily for some people, especially if they have had times when they have lived more closely to the way they're designed. But if somebody has not ever, it's going to take a little bit more time. And then with the outside influence of family, if you're in a relationship and you have family, I can't imagine trying to do this. Just when I first started waking up and healing was at the end of 2013. There's no way I could have done human design at that time. No way. It would have been too much. I've been married. I mean, I'm married, and I know that myself and my husband would not have been able to be as okay with it as we are now, even though he's not into this at all.
Yeah.
We laugh at the mechanics all the time because of our mechanics. That was a good joke. I love it.
Yeah. Oh, do you know, this has been so interesting, and I appreciate that you're so honest about it, that you're not trying to, be you should find a design, you should live by the design. That you've brought real wisdom and openness to it, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Jill. I appreciate that very much. That's
You.
very touching.
And I just wonder, I know there's some people watching, whether you could recommend a book or 2 books that would be a good place to start with any reading about human design. Maybe you could, if you're not sure, maybe you could just come back and put them in the comments, or,
Well, book-wise, yeah, that can be kind of a challenge, because book-wise, most of them are, it would be like buying an astrology book. You're getting the whole thing in a sense. I mean, to a certain extent, but I do have a group, and I would love to maybe invite others who may be interested in learning more to come over there. And within that group, I do have some files in there. I also have some units in there, like one of the main units that I would tap into for anybody who may be curious to just kind of see what human design is about. From the mind is, it's a mind talk through the center series. And I created it in a way that it doesn't matter if you know your human design or not.
Right.
You could still read it and get an idea of, to tap in with yourself, to see, do I do these things? Like, am I always trying to answer everybody's questions? Am I constantly thinking about things that that don't make any difference, that don't matter? Am I trying to receive attention from others by constantly talking out? Am I trying to prove my worthiness? Am I pressured to do things that I don't want to do? There's several more. So yeah, that would be a great start to, check that out for sure, if that's all right.
Yeah. Share your group in the comments, and then, anybody who wants to look a bit deeper, they can go to that unit and read. And thank you so much for being here. I know we've got Carolyn, Louise and Parul listening, so I hope you've all enjoyed it, and thank you for being here with us. And yes, I'm going to sign Denise and I out now, and take care, everybody. This has been most interesting. Thank you so much. Okay, the live stream has now stopped.
Yep. I was just watching because I wasn't sure what to do. I was just following your direction.
So the live stream has stopped, and I'll stop